Hello and welcome to LightBody Radio. I'm your host, Dr. Lara May, and today we have with us Cindy Costley, the founder of the Underlying Answers and creator of EBDT, a transformational healing system centered on the 6 frequencies of human regulation: spiritual, energetic, mental, emotional, physical, and behavioral. After navigating decades of complex health challenges, Cindy discovered how chronic stress and trauma shaped protective patterns in the body and how restoring safety allows those patterns to reorganize. Her work bridges Western science, Eastern practices, spirituality, and scripture to help individuals restore the original design of the body, one layer at a time. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited. This is so fascinating. So tell us, of course, about your journey and how you came to be, practicing where you are today. And then I have, of course, lots more questions. So we'll start there.
All right. Well, my journey is quite long, so I'm going to shrink it down as much as possible. But basically, at age 15, that's where it kind of all started, because I just woke up one day literally and suddenly was allergic to everything. I had rashes all over my body, and I had, my parents took me, we did all these tests because nothing was getting rid of them. And I ended up being allergic to almost all chemicals, all animal life. 5 minutes in the room with any animal, I would have a massive asthma and eye swelling attack. For almost all foods and all the environment. So grasses, trees, all of that. And I lived that way for 34 years. And I tried everything. I tried everything I could, Western and Eastern, during that time period. My mom even became a naturopathic physician just to try and help me. And nothing ever lasted. A lot of the things that I would do would be a temporary fix, but the rashes would come back. And that's how it really manifested in my body. And in that time period, I raised 3 kids. I went to school, got a degree, started my own business. So I functioned, I lived my life. But the older I got and the more stressors that came our way, the more my life shrunk. And my life became smaller and smaller and smaller. And then at age 48, my family and I went water skiing up at a lake that we'd never been to. And water skiing is our thing, but we hadn't been to this particular lake before. And within about 2 hours of being in the water, I was taken to the hospital, massive anaphylactic reaction of the skin from something in the lake. And that was kind of the downhill spiral from there. My body had had enough. And usually a big reaction like that would recover within a week or two. And I just never fully recovered. I started reacting to every single thing. I mean, we got to where we moved. My husband and I moved houses. We moved to the beach. We got rid of all carpet. We got the drapes out of our house. He had to take his clothes off before coming into the house. Like, again, the shrinking, we just accommodated the reactions as opposed to while I was trying to figure it out, but we couldn't, there was no answers. And about 8 months into that journey, I told my husband one night, I said, my body wants to dance. My soul wants to dance, and it's going to dance either here on this earth or somewhere else. I could just feel that my body was shutting down. My doctors were telling me I had the liver of an end-stage alcoholic, and I didn't drink because I was allergic to alcohol. And I didn't have answers. I couldn't find any answers. I couldn't figure it out. And so I tried something very different, and I thought, okay, what have I not done? And it was the spiritual route. And so I hired a spiritual counselor. My niece said, Aunt Cindy, you need to go see this healer. And then I also sought out a functional doctor. And it took me 6 months to see both of those, a new functional doctor and the healer. And their appointments happened to be one after the other, which is what's just really blows my mind to this day, because there's no accidents in this, right? And so I have the appointment with the healer first, and I was in a motorhome at the time because I had my appointment for the doctor was 6 hours away. So I had to visit my brother, stay with him, and I couldn't go in his house. So I had to stay in his motorhome. That was what I always did when I saw him. And the first thing the healer says is, why are you in a box? Why do I see you in a box? And I'm like, oh, okay, that's weird. And as we're talking, she starts to tell me, she says, tell me what happened to you when you were 14. And I told her about something that happened to me when I was 15. And she said, no, Cindy, tell me what happened to you when you were 14. And I had never spoken one word about a major trauma that I had at age 14 to anybody ever. And that day she called me out on it and said, Cindy, this is everything that you're going through. Your body's been screaming at you all these years. This is not, you're not allergic to everything. Your body's shouting at you. And then she did a healing on me, and all my rashes that I had at the time went away. And I was just puzzled by that. Like, whoa, what? And my take was, if she could do it, why can't I? And then the next day I saw a functional doctor, and he had studied at Harvard, did his residency at Stanford, and then did 2 years in India studying Ayurvedic medicine, which is why I loved him and I sought him out. So the first thing he says to me is, tell me about your childhood traumas. And I had never, ever correlated some very serious traumas that I had been through with my physical reactions, because I didn't have depression. I know now I had anxiety that it showed up physically, but I didn't think I did. I used to tell my kids I got away unscathed from some very serious traumas, and you don't want this to happen to you, right? And so as he's talking to me, and this thing that happened with the healer the night before, it just started to click with me. Something resonated so deeply that maybe this is what this really could be all about. And it turned out that my body had been trying to tell me all these years that it wanted to heal. Every allergic reaction, quote unquote allergic reaction, was actually something that was in my environment, something I could smell, something I could see, touch, hear, anything that was around me or in my surroundings, even the foods that were in my digestive system at the time and shortly after each of the events. So they became a threat to my body. And that was the start of this journey of really starting to learn to listen to what my body had been trying to tell me all along. So I'll stop there and let you kind of see if you have any questions for me before I move on. But that was the beginning of my healing journey that led to just one miraculous, beautiful story after another, and to the work that I do now.
Well, I think it's, unfortunately for you, but good for our audience, and it sounds like good for that journey that came after that, is that it's a beautiful illustration of how our physical manifestation of ourselves really is connected to that intangible piece of the experience and how we deal with the experience. Whatever that experience is, whether it's a positive experience or a negative, or, a little T versus big T trauma, or, and especially to certain of us, raised within a certain generational time frame. I'm Gen X myself. There were just some things that we were taught, we weren't really taught to talk about things. We were actually taught to not talk about things. Or to ignore them, or to just, suck it up and move on, or have a thick skin, and, any of these things that I think, again, are interestingly generational. And so, but you learned a lesson that I think we all have to learn in some way, shape, or form. And in the notes that you sent me for this episode, I think you put it beautifully, where and I'm just going to read the sentence that you wrote because I love it. It says, many spiritual aware individuals are expanding in consciousness, insight, and energetic sensitivity, yet their bodies are still organized around old survival patterns. I think that is so key and so profound. So let's start there, because I feel like that's sort of like the foundation of where we're going to go with the rest of the episode today.
It's so important to realize that even though, we are spiritual beings, and we're taught we're spiritual beings first, right? But we're having this human experience, and our spirituality, our consciousness is not separate from our physical body. In fact, our physical body is our way that our consciousness speaks to us and shares what's out of alignment for us, so that we can raise our consciousness even more and more. But the key is learning, do we know how to listen? Right. I didn't know that that whole time my body was just trying to speak to me, right? Now I know, and I can I'm at such a level that I can speak directly to my body, give it a directive, and heal something just, like this when it shows up, because I have this incredible connection with my body now. But it took really learning how to relate the fact that everything that happens to us is biological first. Right? So when we have, like, I love how you said big T, little t, whatever it is, even stressors, they become biological first because our body feels it before anything else happens.
Mm-hmm.
So immediately when something happens to us, we start to analyze the mental brain, right? And we start looking at the depression and the anxiety, and that's all super important. And mindset is super important. But it's important to realize we cannot talk our way out of a biological safety response.
Mm-hmm.
We cannot mindset ourselves out of a response that's automatic, a pattern that's automatic in our body. And I was trying to decide if I was going to share this with you, and I think I will. I think this is a good audience for this. I actually just finished clearing another layer of my own trauma yesterday. Mm-hmm. Now, when I go through a release, it lasts 4 days. My body tells me something that it needs to release, and then I give it a directive. And what I do is retell the story. So I'm changing the pattern. But what's important to know is that even after all the work I've done, I missed this pattern. I didn't understand that I still had this one lingering pattern. And what it was huge. And it was, I'm going to share it. I'm going to be very vulnerable here because this is really big, but I had so much sexual trauma. So it turned out at age 6, I had a suppressed trauma. That did not come out until several years into my healing journey. So I had age 6, and then 14 was a group trauma. So it was me being knocked out and waking up with several individuals. And I don't want to trigger anybody. So I'm just trying to show the magnitude of this trauma. And then at age 15, I had another one. And then that's when I became allergic to everything. And it was really my body's way of saying, I'm going to keep you safe by keeping you away from everything. Right.
Right. Yeah.
It's not safe anymore. And so I've done all this beautiful healing, and I'm working with others and I'm helping them heal. And I have this one thing that happens pretty regularly around my own sexual life with my husband. And I'm not going to get into detail of it because it's very private to him.
Sure.
But it's something that showed up over and over and over again. We've been together 28 years, and it showed back up again last week. And it was the first time I actually felt that this is a pattern. And what it stemmed from was me not feeling like my body was mine. I felt like an object or possession my entire life because of what happened to me. Yeah. And when that clicked last week and I started letting go with that, it was 2 days of crying, a day of very physical for me. It's like I felt it in my body. It came out of my muscles, my bones, because we hold on to all of that, right?
Right.
So for all these years, and it's not just my husband, because he's wonderful. He's done nothing wrong. Everything he does is out of pure love. And it's just my own body's reaction because of my past, right? Mm-hmm. So we've learned to navigate that together. But what I found out is we just normalized it instead of actually me looking at it and saying, why do I freeze in these type of situations?
Yeah.
And so this last week, I was able to let go of all that. And I have never felt my body in the way that I feel it right now. Beautiful. It is the most beautiful thing. But I had to be willing to look at what is that pattern, that safety pattern that my body created all those years ago, to say, nope, this isn't safe. We're going to freeze. So basically, anytime he comes behind me or just comes around to hug me, my whole body freezes. Mm-hmm. I didn't realize the freeze until I've healed so much of the other stuff, right, that now I see when I'm peaceful and I'm joyful and I'm feeling that enlightened feeling that we all crave and want, which is the majority of my life now. But this one area was still showing this tightness, right? This freeze response. And that is a pattern that my body created to protect me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And it is one of the most biologically ingrained.
Yes.
Like in us as humans.
Yes.
And I mean that fight, flight, or freeze. And so that freeze is the last step for ultimate protection, because that's essentially playing dead.
Yes.
like if we equate it back to the animal kingdom, which we are a part of,
Right.
like our body's like, nope, play dead or you're going to die.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah. So, I mean, that's so profound.
And
And wow. I mean, when we have those realizations and it's like another level of awakening, really,
well, and
and that realization. Yeah.
that's the tie. Like you brought up the fact that I talk about biological, the more I heal each of these layers, the more I am connected to spirit. I'm connected to my soul. The more my intuition is stronger. My vibration is higher. Every joy is just wrapped in my life. Like I walked on the harbor today, just so full of joy and peace and light and love. And it's because I let that go. And I sat in meditation when I was walking, and I just honored that little girl that, originally, because fight, flight, freeze is a natural, healthy response in our body. Our body is designed for that. But what happens is if we don't heal whatever we went into fight and flight, freeze for, it becomes a pattern. We call it triggers, and it is triggers, but it goes beyond just a trigger, because the trigger was anything that was going on in my life with my husband, right? So, or anybody in my past, this has been happening for that long, but that's the trigger that we talk about all the time. The pattern is what we get to look at, is how are we normalizing those triggers? How did I not look, all these years and say, this is not normal? You're my husband. I love you more than anything on this earth, yet I freeze when this or this, right? And so there's so many different aspects to all of this, but the key, what it always comes back to, is listening to what our body's trying to tell us and learning how to understand that our symptoms are actually the body's way of giving a message. Our symptoms are not the message themselves. They're our body's way of giving that message. The key is learning to listen, understand what the message might be. And it takes time. Like I said, I just did this one layer this last week. And so, as things show up, we get to heal it, and we get to look back and say, that's no longer serving me. Right?
Yeah.
And when we are able to let go of that, when we're able to build that connection with our body at such a strong level, that is connecting us even more to our true self, to our truth, to spirit, right? That is where we are so connected to consciousness, to the idea that we are all one and we're a reflection of one another. And we strive for that so much, and we do the mindset work, and we eat right, and we do all the things that we think are best and are going to help us reach that level of enlightenment that we're looking for. But in reality, it's actually coming from within our body. It's actually the highest form of enlightenment is that connection with our physical body, not just our soul.
And it's so interesting that you're bringing it back to that too, because I think through so many different spiritual and religious traditions, we have learned about the transition out of the body as like the ultimate sort of apex of that quote unquote enlightenment. But I think it's important for us to remember that our souls chose to be here on this planet in these bodies.
Yes.
And our soul chose that for a reason. It could have chosen to remain in the, intangible, in the realm of light and love, but that chose Earth School and physical body and, and physicalness.
Yes.
And all of the things that comes with that. So the feelings and the emotional roller coaster. And again, like you said, I think I totally agree with you that it is there as a teaching mechanism, as a signal, but we also have to learn to not judge it and judge ourselves. And so I think that's also and I don't know where along the way we learn this, and I don't know if everyone does. I hope everyone doesn't, but I kind of feel like everyone does at some point. We somehow learn to judge ourselves and judge these physical reactions. So, like when we're having an allergic reaction, or we're having, even if it's just, a a flu or a stomach bug or whatever, like we say like, well, what's wrong with me? What's
Yeah.
wrong with this body? It needs to be fixed.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
We do. We think of our symptoms as our body failing us. And
mhm.
really, our body is highly, highly intelligent and speaking to us,
Mhm.
right? And when we can look at our symptoms from that level of beauty, and it's hard. This is not easy work, but it's so much easier than ignoring our symptoms, ignoring, our pain and our suffering. I remember the day I had been to my brother's for the weekend, and my husband and I had gone there. Again, we stay in the motorhome. He has an outdoor patio, so we cook, and he has full outdoor kitchen. So we always just hung out outside whenever I was visiting him. And this particular weekend, it was raining all weekend long. There were the Raiders playing, and I think it was the baseball playoffs or something big was going on. So my son was there from college, his good friend, my brother, my husband, everybody was inside the whole weekend. And I was in the motorhome because I couldn't go in their house. And I was just reading my book, and I was just like, oh, they'd come in and check on me. I'm like, I'm good. I'm just reading. I'm fine. You guys are, go have fun. And I literally fooled myself that I was fine.
Mhm.
And I get back, and I was meeting with my spiritual teacher at the time, Kate, and I'm telling her this story, and she's like, Cindy, look at you. You're like this. And I was just telling this story as I'm scratching myself to pieces. I'm rubbing my arms and I'm scratching my face. She's like, you're not fine. You don't know how to feel your emotions. And I had shut off my emotions years and years and years ago because they were too painful. So at age 6, my brain this is why I felt everything somatically. My brain was so smart. It said, she can't handle this level of pain. We're going to shift so that she feels everything physically.
Mhm.
Then at 14, when that trauma happened, and at 15, that's when my body kicked full into gear and said, no more emotions. So I never really learned how to feel emotions for anybody, for myself. I could feel other people. I could feel emotions for other people. I could feel sadness, and I could cry for others if they went through hard things, for my kids, but not for myself. I had shut that off. So here I am scratching myself, and she lays me on the table and she says, I want you to get in touch with that sadness. And I'm like, what does that mean? And she does this breath exercise and helps me to kind of get a little bit connected to my spirit. And this is actually the first time too that I saw my guides and everybody around me. And she said, I want you to tell me who you see. And I saw my dad there and just some other people. I just started bawling. And she goes, now tell me, I want you to speak to your sadness. And so she was guiding me, and I said, hello, sadness. Kind of giggling inside like, this is stupid. But all of a sudden it kicked in, and I saw my sadness, and it became real for me. And I said, what do you want me to know? And it said, I'm part of you. Know me, feel me, love me. And I just started bawling, and I realized I've never let myself feel sad for my situation, right? I have blocked myself. And all the things that I couldn't do living in my little bubble because I was allergic to so much, that's how I protected myself, to make it okay.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like you didn't even give yourself permission to quote, not be okay, to allow yourself to say to yourself, I am not okay. And that's okay. Like, it's okay to not be okay.
Yeah. I didn't know how to do that.
Yeah.
I had normalized my life as this, my quote was, I'm the girl allergic to the world, or I won the allergy lottery. Right. So I used to just laugh it away and then always tell myself, well, so many people have it so much worse. And that's how I justified my pain and everything that I went through and stopped myself from feeling. Mm-hmm. So when I started to learn that my sadness just wants to be heard, to be seen, to be known, I was able to also start to feel my anger and all the other emotions that my body was expressing through my skin, through itching, through rashes, through asthma, all of it. And that was really the beginning of me connecting to my body in a very, very different way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so profound. And I think even just the concept will help so many people today of like giving yourself permission to say, I'm not okay. Like, even if it's, because again, it's not permanent.
No.
No, nothing on this life is permanent. I mean, even us, we're not permanent. We're just here for a short amount of time. And so, I think that can be comforting that, like, okay, I can admit this now and it'll pass. Something else will come in.
Mhm.
And, you know, it's so interesting. uh, One of the things that you also talked about in your notes is restoring the original design of the body. So what does that look like and what's that process like?
That's exactly what I'm talking about is our body has this innate ability to protect us during feeling times that it doesn't feel safe, right?
Mhm, mhm.
And safe doesn't have to be physical danger. It could be emotional danger,
Oh,
right?
for
It
sure.
could be
Absolutely. Yeah.
there's a lot of ways that we as a body and mentally, physically, emotionally don't feel safe. And in those times, our body does exactly what it's supposed to do. It's innate intelligence that knows how to protect us during those moments. You hear of people that do miraculous things during the fight flight mode, right? Like they were able to lift cars or whatever, right? The key is our body also knows, and this is what we aren't told, and this is what we don't talk about, is our body also knows how to bring us back into regulation.
Yeah.
But because we stopped listening, because we don't heal the pain after it happens, our body takes those same protective patterns that it gave us during the moment of trauma or stress
Mhm.
and carries it on because it becomes a cellular imprint.
Okay.
And so it's okay that it became a cellular imprint during the trauma because we want it to.
Yeah.
But then the key is reversing and reminding our body, we're safe now. It's okay to be back, to be regulated again. It's okay to not feel so fearful.
Yeah.
And that is the body's ability to restore itself. It's just we don't know how to tell it how to do that. Just
Right.
like this week, my directive that I gave my body is that I no longer need to be in that like freeze
Mhm.
over intimacy. I am in control of my own body. We have healed that time period where I felt unsafe, and now I had to remind my body, oh wait, this is a pattern that has carried on all these years and I don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah.
It's
Thank you. Thank you, but we're good now.
yes, thank you, but we're good now. And our body knows how to listen to that. Our cells can restore themselves and change the pattern, the direction of how it like processes different things, because we're all different in how our body processes these traumas, right?
Mhm.
So the patterns are different and unique for every one of us. The key is to understand that every pattern can be reversed.
Mm.
And we don't know how to do that. So instead, we start focusing more and more on the symptoms and symptom management versus looking at the underlying patterns of dysregulation and what can we do to change to tell ourselves we no longer need this pattern anymore,
Mhm.
right?
So, how can someone discern that difference between maybe even if it's like a good sort of expansion? Because expansion in general can feel uncomfortable
Mhm.
or scary sometimes.
Yeah.
So how do we make that difference between um, expanding from alignment versus retreating out of like reaction and those old survival patterns?
It really, mm, I think the best way to say this is it's about getting to know your body,
Okay.
because there isn't one answer I can give one person because it's
Sure.
different for every one of us,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So for me, this last week, when something happened on Saturday, I call it a purposeful pause. And I talk about it to my clients all the time, and I talk about it in my interviews all the time, but it's practicing what we preach, right? And so this thing happened, and I paused for a moment and went, wait a minute, was that? And the question I asked myself is this a reaction or a interaction? Am I having
Mhm.
an interaction with my body, or am I reacting? Is my body reacting, right? And it was an obvious reaction. And then I went to bed, I meditated on it that night. And for me, a lot of times I wake up in the middle of the night with the answer. So I woke up in the middle of the night and I learned the words object and possession. And that second I get what it is that my body's trying to tell me, because that was the message. You feel like an object, you've felt like an object or possession your entire life. So the moment I got that, I was able to then write a directive and retell my body I wanted it to look like or act like instead. So the first step, though, was being willing to pause in that moment, not just carry through, not just push through, not just ignore or normalize whatever it is going on, but pause for a moment and ask and go within and ask my guides. My guides, angels, my higher self, like, we're partners, right? And we're working together all the time to try and figure things out. And this is something that showed up stronger and stronger in the last week, which often happened to me throughout my healing journey. As it got closer to healing one thing, my body would show me more and more. So it wasn't surprising when it was that I knew it was time to heal, but I had to stop and listen. And to be honest, I could have stopped and listened several times during the week and done the same thing and got it done earlier, but I didn't stop. Right? I just pushed through, kept going. And so this,
such is life for so many of us.
Yeah,
right?
there's no even blame there, right? That's just, it was the right time for me to pause and stop and say, body, what is this you're trying to tell me? Why am I noticing this? I didn't even notice it as a freeze right away until I started healing it. I just noticed like in my body,
Yeah.
And now I understand that was a freeze response, but in the time I just noticed dysregulation, that in these certain moments, and my husband is just the most kindest, gentlest, most amazing soul in the world. So I know it's not him. Right. And I got to stop and pause and ask myself what I needed to know. And it takes a lot of practice. This isn't something just like anything. Like anything we do, it takes practice to get to know ourselves on this level. But the key is taking the time to pause and ask ourselves, am I reacting or am I engaging with myself? Right? Because if it's true enlightenment, it's just an engagement. You're learning, you're growing, and you're feeling that. But if it's like a trauma response, you will notice the difference in your body when you learn to feel your body in that moment.
Yeah. I love that. I feel like we've been talking about this the whole time, but really like saying it out loud that we need to learn to listen, but really trust. I think that's the key, is trust what we're hearing or feeling, or, whatever that, we all receive those intuitive messages in a different way. And it could be sensorial, could be more than one sense, or it could just be a primary, whether it's like a vision or auditory or but learning to trust that and respond in kind, like you said, like stop ignoring, stop pushing it down, stop, like just blindly moving forward, pause and listen, and then respond to that specifically. And that, again, it does take practice. It takes, again, coming back to that word trust. I think that's like self-trust is a huge factor here.
Yeah. And here's the tricky part about that. And I'm just going to keep it real with you right now. Not trusting ourselves could be a protective pattern too. So to say we need to trust ourselves and we need to start to listen, that might not be the first step. No. Because if we don't trust ourselves, because we learned when we were young, because our mom told us we were dumb, or whatever the story might have been that we took on, whatever the identity might have been that we might have taken on, to tell us that we're not trustworthy, we can't trust ourselves, our body's not trustworthy, we have to look outside of us for everything. Yeah. Whatever those patterns are, those have to kind of be acknowledged and healed first, because we can't really start to learn to listen to ourselves at this deep level and connect with our soul through our physical body without repatterning those trust conversations that we have with ourselves subconsciously, right? Yeah. So that's where it gets a little tricky, because yes, in order to listen at a deep level and do what I'm doing, we need to trust ourselves. I did not trust myself at first. So the key was at first to heal the fact that, oh, I do actually have answers, and I can, get in touch with myself at a deep level and learn to trust that. And going even beyond that, and I don't think that's so much an issue for your listeners here because of the name of your podcast, but for a lot of people in this world, the trust even goes, like, restoring the design even starts one step further, which is the spiritual part. Just trusting that there's something bigger than us, something higher than us, that actually can make this be truth. Right? So if we don't believe in a higher power, something bigger than us, whatever that looks like for us, it's really hard to believe that our body has this innate ability to heal.
Isn't that interesting too? When I was, a freshman in college, I, for a short time, was a self-professed atheist. And, I was, studying biological sciences. And so it's interesting that, yeah, that's so true. Like if, and I respect everyone's opinion and beliefs. And if, atheist is what you identify as, that's fine. But I do sort of agree with you now, looking back on it, that I don't think we can fully appreciate the amazingness and the power of even just biology and chemistry and physics, all those things that we call science,
right?
But they are so amazing because of all the intangibles and all the spirituality that's behind all three of them.
Yes.
And you don't have to assign a religious label to it, but I think that acknowledgement of there's a magic there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
totally.
Like it's magical that it all works the way it works, that we have these bodies and it has the chemical processes that allow us to breathe automatically. We don't have to think about taking a breath in order to stay alive. We just do.
I just do.
And why is that? Like, how is it designed this way? So at one point in my life, I tried to separate them and say, no, this is just the one thing and we don't need this other thing over here. But now I agree with you. Yeah, like they go hand in hand. You can't have one without the other.
They do. And maybe you needed that in that time, maybe to see the differences, right? But when I was walking on the harbor this morning, I thought, what miracle just happened in my life in the last 4 days? 51 years of my body carrying this pattern that I belong to someone else, that I'm an object or a possession, and that my body is not truly mine. 51 years, that's a long time to carry a pattern. And in 4 days, I let it all go. That's a miracle. But we don't see ourselves as this miracle. And so people around me probably thought I was crazy because I was just hugging my body the whole walk. And I'm like, we did it. I was crying. I was just like, this is so beautiful what we just let go of. Because it's no longer going to hold me back. It's no longer going to be this presence in my body, in my life that's that brings me back to those times of trauma, right? So without understanding that intelligence, that ability for our body to do that, which comes most often from us believing in something bigger and than ourselves, outside of ourselves, I wouldn't be where I'm at right now. That's why I talk about the 6 frequencies of regulation. And it's because we regulate 6 areas of our body. So it's the spiritual, the energetic, the mental, emotional, physical, and behavioral. And they actually regulate in that order. So when we're in dysregulation, we've got to look at the spiritual first. Because again, if we don't believe in something more powerful than ourselves, can we truly regulate all those other frequencies, right? And then energetic is next, because if we don't believe that everything is energy, if we don't believe that our cells can actually shift, if we don't understand quantum physics in at least a little bit, or believe in it even if we don't understand it, it makes it hard to really allow ourselves to heal the way that our body is designed to heal. And then mentally is next, because mentally we talk ourselves in or out of healing, right? All the time. So when we believe and we tell ourselves, I can heal, this is the mindset work that a lot of people are doing all the time. And it's super important because our mind has to go along with our conversations, and all of that have to go along with the work we're trying to do for ourselves, right? Then there's emotional. If we're not emotionally feeling our feelings, we're never going to heal, because our body, we're constantly suppressing. So first we get to believe that we can heal and understand it, and then emotionally allow ourselves to feel those feelings and be safe feeling those feelings. And then by doing that, we move into being able to heal the physical body. Without those other four first, it's very difficult to heal at a high level, the way I did, going from doctors saying, we got to keep you comfortable. There's no cure for this. Like we're just going to focus on quality of life, to me completely thriving and having no sign of any of that at all anymore.
Mhm.
I had to heal I had to, really work on those other four frequencies first,
Sure.
then the physical, and then the last space is behavioral. Because once we heal all that, our behaviors start to change, right?
Yeah.
And we start to look at life and act differently.
Yeah, I think it's important for people to realize too that this is, like you just explained, a stepwise process. Like, you didn't get to where you are today overnight in an instant.
No.
It was learned, it was conditioned, it was, in response to events happening in your life. And so
Yes.
it doesn't have to take a long time, but it is a stepwise process. And that's one of the things I love about this whole realm too, is that it can be like your process. That was like, I agree that that's a miracle, and miracles can be instantaneous, but
Yeah.
also remember that that's just one layer of the onion. It's one, petal on the lotus flower to be
Right.
unfolded. And so, yes, you there's that one, but then now there's more to come, and how exciting.
Yeah.
So it's never done. And I think it's also important to come back to, like, we're not broken. We're just on a path of, like you said, like, remembering who we are, coming back to our essence, returning to homeostasis,
Yes.
and that divine, beautiful, like, perfection that we are, because
Yes.
it's, like, there's plenty of imperfection in this realm and on this planet, but again, it's no accident that we as humans are designed and operate the way we do.
Yeah. And when we don't listen to that, we start feeling it,
Yeah.
right? Mentally, emotionally, physically. Because our biology starts to express louder and louder and louder, right? To
Yeah.
show us, to get us to listen. Like, my body, louder and louder and louder over the years, the more trauma I had, the more and then I say trauma, but like, my dad died and I got fired from a job. Like, the more things that happen over life, the more, if we don't feel it, if we don't deal with it at the time, the more it impacts our biology, our
Yes.
physiology.
Our physical health.
And
Yeah.
it's all interconnected. It's all related, which is the good news, because it also means it can all be reversed.
Yeah. And we have the power to do that.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So let's leave our audience with maybe like a tool or something they can implement for themselves. Like, what is one simple way that people can start bringing their body back into alignment, back into that level of homeostasis?
Yeah. I like to leave with 2 steps. So the first one is the purposeful pause that I talked about. If we don't pause to listen, we cannot learn. Right. And so the first step is noticing, oh, there's something going on. And then I'm going to take a purposeful pause and then ask your body, what are you trying to tell me right now? What do you want me to know? Do I just need more water? Do I need to get up and take a walk because I've been sitting at the computer too long? Not all messages are big, lifelong trauma messages. They could just be your body telling you, hey, I'm getting fatigued sitting in front of this computer that you're sitting on all day, and I need you to step away from it for a bit. Or I'm feeling this emotion that you didn't let yourself feel last night, and I want you to feel it. And the thing about emotions is, remember that you are in connection with your body. So if there's a time when you feel something coming up, it's okay to say, hey, this isn't the right time to process it, but we're going to do it later, I promise you. And you will start to have that connection with your body, and your body will shut down and it'll suppress that emotion. If you're like in the middle of work, or, about to go into a meeting and you're feeling anxious. Okay, I'm going to let myself feel this anxiety, but I can't right now. And then you go, but the thing is to sit down later and actually write about it or talk about it or let yourself feel it. Honor your body by doing what you say you're going to do, which is I'm going to let myself feel this later.
Mm-hmm.
And so really it's kind of a 3-step. It's taking a pause, listening, and then being willing to do something if you notice your body's telling you something. And those are just small first steps, but that's what helps us build that love and that connection with ourselves.
Beautiful. I love that. Thank you so much. Tell everyone where they can find you and anything else that you want to leave our audience with today.
Okay. You can find me at theunderlyinganswers.com. And I also have a community called Restore the Design. It's a free community. And it's just to help dig into this work a little bit more. If you want to learn how to listen to your body, want to hear more about my story and how, we just can listen. It's free. It's a 1 call a month. And it's just to learn to listen. And that's called Restore the Design. It's on the Underlying Answers website. And that's how you can find me.
Okay, beautiful. Well, thank you so much. This was, I think, really profound and super helpful. And I think it will help guide people onto their next step as well. So I really appreciate you and your work.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Okay, everybody. Definitely check out theunderlyinganswers.com. And we will also have a link to this on our website, drlaramay.com/podcasts. And yeah, so don't be afraid to take a pause, start listening, just be curious. Like, maybe what is out there trying to tell me? What is within me that's trying to speak to me? And just be open and curious to see what comes up. So thank you, everybody. We'll catch you on the next episode.